What's up everybody, Camero here, and welcome to part 54 of my How to Make a Pokemon Game tutorial series. In this episode, we are going to be looking at the Move Animation Editor. First, I'm going to show you what all of the different functions are in the Animation Editor, and then we're going to use those to edit some existing animations that are already built into Pokemon Essentials, and then after that, we're going to make our own animation. With that said, let's get into it. So, in order to access the Move Animation Editor, you have to actually run your game. So first, let's just save it and run it. What I've got here is just a base version of Pokemon Essentials, and we'll run it real quick. And then you want to access the debug menu. You can hit escape and go down to debug, or just hit F9 on your keyboard. Go to Information Editors, and then I'm going to scroll up, because that'll take me to the bottom of the list. And then we want to go to Battle Animation Editor. And then that'll open up this big window, and this is where we're going to be living this entire tutorial. This is where all the magic happens. So, right off the bat, you'll see on the very bottom the move that we're currently looking at. This is Aqua Ring. And in the middle here, we have a little battle scene. We've got our Pikachu here, which is layer 0. We've got a Charizard here, which is layer 1. And then the actual move effect, which is layer 2. And we can scrub through the frames here. So we're on frame 1, we can click this arrow and go through the different frames and watch as the animation changes. It doesn't look very good, but this is what Aqua Ring looks like right now in default Pokemon Essentials. If we want to change what we're looking at, in the very bottom left, there's this button here called List of Animations. You can click on this and scroll through this very long list where you can see moves that have already been defined. And at the very top, there are some common ones, such as like health up, health down, stat up, stat down, when you're asleep, when you're poisoned, when you're burned. So like if we wanted to, we could load the paralysis animation, just hit enter on that and then hit enter again. And now we can see this is what it looks like in game when you're paralyzed. There's all these frames, and then you can hit play animation or play opposing animation, and that'll play it over the two different characters. So typically every animation has two forms. There's the animation and then the opposing animation. The way that opposing animations work is they're really just flipped versions of the one that plays by default. So when we play this one, then when we play this one, it's just flipped, so it's on the other fighter. Anyway, let's start looking at some of the other buttons. The very first one here up on this list is SE and BG, so that's sound effects and background. If you want to play sounds in your animations, which you obviously do, I mean, a Pokemon attack kind of would be pointless if you don't have a cool sound effect with it, you want to click this button, and then you can see all of the things that they're doing. So, right now this one is a very basic animation. All it does is play one sound effect called Paralyze 3 at volume 80, pitch 100, on frame 1. So on frame 1 of this animation, it'll play this sound effect. If we wanted to, we could edit that by clicking this stuff down here and then set frame. Now that paralyzed sound effect will play on frame 4 of the animation. But if you look down here, the animation is only 7 frames long. It's probably better to have that just play on frame 1, where it was. We don't need to tweak it too much. And if we wanted to delete that sound effect, we could just do delete. Should we? Nah, let's not do that. Alrighty, so let's take a look at another move animation and edit it and learn some more buttons along the way. One that I always like looking at is Rock Throw, particularly because I think it's a funny looking move because you end up just chucking a rock into their face. I think that's pretty great. So, it's right here. In order to navigate through this list really quickly, I'm hitting the page up and page down buttons on my keyboard. So let's find Rock Throw. If we want to, we could rename it. Also, I guess while I'm here, I'll explain something very important, and I'll reiterate it later when we're making our own move, or when we're making our own move animation. The name of this animation matters. If you can't just call it Rock Throw, you need to call it like Move Rock Throw or Move Op Move. I'll break that down more later, but this one, just Move Rock Throw, it won't work in game if you don't have the proper naming conventions. So anyway, let's load this, and here we have our lovely rock throw. As we can see, it is an 8-frame long animation, and if we scrub through the frames, these are all the different frames. So on frame 1, it's like right here on our Pikachu, and then frame 2 all the way there, and we can just play it. Boom. So that's what it looks like when we play the animation normally. It starts off on our fighter and it flies at their fighter. If we play the opposing animation, it'll start off on their fighter and fly to our fighter. And it'll be this little rock here. If we want to, check this out. We could actually just click it and drag it. Actually, no, it's locked right now. If you want to unlock it, you can just hit L on your keyboard. And now we can click it and drag it and move it. And now it looks like crap. So if we play it, on frame 1, it'll actually be up there in the top corner. Doesn't look very good, but if we play opposing, check it out, it'll be in the bottom right because it's flipped horizontally and vertically. So if you put something in the top left and play it, the opposite will be in the bottom right. Anyway, let's just go and put this back to where it was. We don't want it to be too stupid looking. So there's our animation. So let's start looking at some of these other buttons and let's break them all down while we're here, because there's probably still a lot of things here that are very confusing, so I'm gonna do my best to try to explain everything here. And if you have any other additional questions, you can always hit help, and this will pull up some button combinations for you. You can also press tab on your keyboard, and that'll pull up the same help menu. And then I just hit escape to close it. Alrighty, so cell focus. What this means is the frame right here, this little sprite, I'm gonna unlock it. So this, in the animation editor, is what is referred to as a cell. What we have here in this current frame is 3 cells. What we have is the attacker, or basically there's the user and the target. So I'm going to refer to our friendly Pokemon, the Pokemon that's using the attack, as the user from now on, and then I'm going to refer to the enemy as the target from now on. So what we have here are technically 3 cells. This is cell 0, this is cell 1, and then our rock right here is cell 2. You can change the focus of the cell so that way it determines essentially like what its function is, or like what it's flying at essentially. So I'm gonna like right now this is gonna be sound kind of confusing, but there are multiple focuses, and depending on the focus that you choose, it will determine the layout of the animation. So for example, this cell focus is on user and target. If you wanted to, you can make it just user, or you can make it just target. So a good example of one that's just target would be Bite, where the animation plays over the enemy. Whereas if you use a move that heals you, like Moonlight or something, I think that's a move that heals you, that would play on just the user. This cell focus is user and target because it flies from our user to the target. And then if we wanted to do something crazy, like let's say it's like Trick Room or some sort of animation that affects the entire screen, you would want the focus to be screen. So this helps determine how the opposing animation plays. So if you did user, then what you would want to do is make it so that way the animation focuses here in the bottom left corner. If you did target, you'd want to make it so that way your move's animation focuses here in the top right corner. Otherwise, it would look really dumb. So I can show you an example of one that's actually currently very dumb in Default Essentials. The one I was just looking at earlier at the start of the animation, Aqua Ring, is currently reversed. Let me break that down for you real quick, if I could find it. There it is. So here is Aqua Ring. Right now, the cell focus is user and target, but when you do play animation, it plays over the enemy. Aqua Ring is a move that is supposed to heal the user, so if we do play animation, that's when we're using the move. Play animation plays over the enemy, and play opposing animation plays over us. So if the enemy uses Aqua Ring, there'll be a blue circle above us. That sounds wrong, doesn't it? What we could do is just go and edit this real quick. We could drag all of these over here. Doodly-doo. Do a little quick drag. It's not gonna look great, but then again, it's not gonna look reverse, so holy crap, that is a lot of, oh my goodness, that is a ton of frames. I'm gonna break all this down in a little bit, but good golly gosh, we are dragging so much stuff over here. God dang. Oh, that's a gross animation. This is just a gross one. I think that's just an additional one that we didn't even need. Okay, let's ew. Let's just move all these back. There we go. So this is still not gonna look perfect. In fact, it's probably going to look pretty downright awful. But now it'll play over our user. And what we could even do is just make it so that the focus is on the user. Play animation, play opposing. See, it makes a little bit more sense when we use Aqua Ring, the Aqua Ring appears on us, and when they use Aqua Ring, the Aqua Ring appears on them. It's not perfect. Like I said before, it's probably pretty darn gross. Anyway, let's go look at Rock Throw again, because I like this move, and hopefully so far you're still with me. We're gonna break down all of these other buttons also if you have any questions. I was about to say any confusions, but that doesn't make any sense if you're confused about anything. Okay, let's load Rock Smash again. Cool. So, oh, never mind. I wanted to load Rock Throw. I'm loading Rock Smash right now. That's a pretty nice looking rock, though. So, Rock Throw looks like this. Play, looks pretty fine. If we wanted to, we could change the animation sheet. So I'm gonna break down animation sheets right now. These are actually pretty cool. So what we have here on this bottom scroll bar is an animation sheet for Rock Throw. And the way animation sheets work is they're determined by the animation graphics inside of your game. So if you go to your game folder and go to graphics, animations, all of these are what determine, and I actually just copied this from the pictures folder. I'll break this down later, but everything else should look like this, where these are all 192 by 192 pixel squares in a grid, and there is a hell of a lot of these files. So there's an ice one. Some of these are just ones that came with the default Pokemon Essentials, or the default RPG Maker XP. So this is like an RPG Maker animation that you could use. But then some of these are also ones that are from Pokemon games. So like a good example would be Leech Seed. This did not come with RPG Maker, so this is one that was actually brought from the games into Pokemon Essentials. And these are all, once again, 192 by 192. If you wanted to, check this out. I opened up the water one. You could go and edit this and have your own new images that you could play in the animation editor. So what we could do here is just draw like a, I want to draw like a dumb little smiley face just so I can show it for you guys. Here we go. Smiley. So we could shoot this smiley at somebody if we wanted to. Like, it's pretty gross, but we could do it. And we're going to use it actually a little bit later. Did I save that properly? I think I did. Water 3 PNG. Yeah, look, it's got our little dumb smiley face in it now. Cool. So let's go back into our game. Here's our little animation editor. If we wanted to, we could change this animation sheet. And this brings up the list of those animation files we were looking at earlier. If we wanted to, we could change it to Water 3, where it has our little smile. And you could change the hue here also. So you could use like red water or green water. I'm going to put this back to 0 though. Cool. So the reason the animation sheet is important is because it determines what the graphics are for each cell that you can use in your animation. And during any given frame, you could change the graphics of the cell. So here, once again, we have cell 2, which is our rock that we throw, and then the rock moves, the rock moves, the rock moves, and then it collides, and then there's 2 cells here where there's like, let's see, there's the rock like above, and then beneath it is this like explosion that plays, and then there's the rocks shattering. Whoa, very nice. And those are all the different rock shatters. If we want to, on each individual frame, we could change the graphic of this rock. So here we have our rock. We can hit the P button on our keyboard to bring up the properties. Also, if you want, actually no, sorry, I just hit escape to back out of that. I do not want to exit from the editor. If you want, you could actually just right click also, and this pulls up this whole list of commands that you can use that are pretty useful, and then you can select properties from there. And you can then change the image, which is referred to as pattern, of this cell. So if we wanted to, we could use this one, or this one. And if you go into the negative numbers, you can actually use your user or the target, which would be kind of ridiculous. You know, just use the target here. We're gonna bring this back to the normal rock though. There we go. Okay, cool. So this is our rock throw animation. And I think with all of that broken down into some of the basics, hopefully that makes sense to you guys, let's make our own animation now. Enough of this using existing stuff. let's use our own animations. Really quickly, before I get into making our own animation, I'm going to exit out of the editor and show you something that makes me mad. Save changes? No. X from the editor? Yes. So, in default Pokemon Essentials, the surf animation doesn't look very good, I think. Let's test a wild battle and show it off. I want to make a new animation for surf, because the existing one is kind of bad. And I'll show you what I mean. We fight and we surf. Look at that. That didn't look like surf. That looked like I shot a whole string of white dots at him. The reason it looks like that is because in the Pokemon Essentials scripts, there is a default move animation to use for each type if that move has not been defined previously. So, in the animation editor, there actually currently is no animation for surf. But since surf is a water type move, it falls back on the default water type move animation, which in this case is water gun. So this is in the Pokebattle_scene script, and you gotta scroll all the way down to like line 2930. What I did to find this was I just did Control-Shift-F and then typed in water gun, and then through a global search, I found water gun right here. So if we use a fire type move, and it doesn't have an animation in the animation editor, then it'll just default to the Ember animation. So, since Surf doesn't have a defined animation, it defaults to Water Gun, and personally, I dislike that. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna make our own Surf animation, from start to finish, and hopefully make it look a lot better. So, let's go back into our game. Let's hit F9 to pull up the debug menu. Let's go back to our information editors. Let's go to Battle Animation Editor, and let's break open this window again. Let's go to our list of animations, and let's scroll down and make a new one. Scrolling down a lot though, because there are a lot of animations. One thing that's very cool too is if you want to, you can change the maximum number. Right now the maximum number is 310, and that's because it goes from 0 to 309. If we wanted to, we could increase this number and then hit resize. Now, when we scroll down all the way, it'll be 315, or rather the list will cap at 314 because it goes from 0 to 314. Cool. So, let's make a new one right underneath the Zap Cannon here. And we shall rename this to be move, and then in all caps, surf. Oh, not surg, surf. So this matches the naming convention. We hit OK, boom, there we go. Now we have move surf. What we could do is load it. But actually, really quick before I load it, I want to show you something. There are many different types of naming conventions. So for a very standard move like this, where you just hit once, you would want to do move surf. But for something like wrap, there's move wrap when you initially do the attack, and then common wrap when they're affected by the after effects. And then there's other ones like Spike Cannon has multiple hits, so there's Spike Cannon 2, Spike Cannon 3, Spike Cannon 4. The same thing for like Bullet Seed, Pin Missile, Icicle Spear. And then some moves that are charging, like Fly or Solar Beam, it's very criminal. Solar Beam actually doesn't have an animation in this also. If we want to, we could set that up also later in this episode, but that's going to take a long time. I just want to do a surf animation. But there's one for Fly charging when you initially do the attack, and then one for when the attack actually goes out. So this, if you wanted to make a Solar Beam animation, you would type Solar Beam charging in this same naming format, and then do move Solar Beam for the second turn. Anyway, let's go back to our surf. That is the focus of this. Here we go, and let's load it. Right now it is just an empty animation. The very first thing that we should do is set the animation sheet. And we're gonna use that water one that we defined earlier. Here we go, the one with our little smiley face in it. Let's load it. And actually, I think I want this blue to be brighter. Let's go back to our Water 3 PNG animation here, and let's alter the hue a little bit. So that's darker. We could have red water, we could have green water if we wanted to. I kind of want it to be like teal, like this. That looks kind of nice. Alrighty, now we just hit enter. Boom, there we go. So now the animation sheet has all of these like teal, light blue animation tiles. Now let's go and start making this animation affect our enemy. So let's just left click boop, and we can place a new cell here. As you can see already, this is kind of the incorrect sprite. What we want to do now is hit P to open the properties, and then we can cycle through all of them. That looks pretty nice. Look at that, the water goes and does like a cool little swirl. So let's make it so that way at the start of the animation, it's a little baby swirl, like this. Then we just hit OK. Actually, no, before we hit OK, let's break down some of these other functions. X and Y are, as you can imagine, the position that the cell is moving. So, like, that's actually its coordinates in the editor. Save changes? No, sorry. I keep hitting escape and I don't want to close it. So as you can imagine, like 0, 0 would be like a default origin position, and then from there you can move to like 300, 400, etc. Anywho, let's open the properties again. You can also edit the rotation if you want. You can edit the zoom, X and Y, to increase or decrease the size. So there's angle, there's opacity if you want it to be transparent. You could lower this number from 255 to something else. Blending changes the blending mode, which can kind of make the move look like crap or make it look awesome depending. So if you did some sort of psychic attack where you had like a blending mode 2 thing above somebody, then it might look cool. Let's change the pattern and show off the blending modes actually. So yeah, there's really just 0, 1, and 2. For this something simple like this, we're going to use 0. Flip will alter it horizontally. If we wanted to, we could make it a horizontal swirl so it's slightly different. Let's do a flip actually, I think that looks nice. Priority, front or back, or behind focus or above focus. Let's just make this priority front, so the surf appears in front of everything. And so we can now change our focus. Let's make it so that way this is focusing on the target. This animation will play on our enemy and our enemy only. And then we could change the color, we could change all that stuff. Okay, I think this is pretty good though. Here we have our first little cell, and let's place this above our enemy. Ta-da, there we go. Frame 1 complete. Let's change the number of frames for our animation now, actually. Let's increase this to, I don't know, 14? There we go. So now, on frame 1, we have this little blue swirl underneath Charizard. And then on frame 2, we got nothing. So, an amazing function that I think everybody should use and is the best thing ever is this paste last button. What this does is it pastes the last cell from the previous frame into the current frame. So we're on frame 1, we can go to frame 2, and then hit paste last, and then boom, there is the frame that we used in frame 1, in the exact same position, all of the exact same settings, everything is the exact same, but now it's in frame 2. So we can hit P again, and change it to a slightly bigger water swirl. Look at that. So on frame 1 it looks like this, on frame 2 it looks like this. Let's just play it real quick. Wow, it's still not very good looking. So let's go to frame 3 and hit paste last again, and then hit P, and then change this again. There we go. 1, 2, 3, paste last, alter this again. So as you can see, editing animations is a very time-consuming process, but it can be really worth it once you get the hang of it. Paste last, P. Cool. So we're starting to make some progress on this animation. It's starting to look pretty decent, I must say. While we're here and making our animation look pretty decent, let's break down some of the other buttons. Clear frames is, as you can imagine, clears the frames. So what we could do is clear frames 1 to 14, or we could change it so that way it's clearing only frame 1. I don't want to do that, but if you ever want to clear your frames, do this. What that'll do is it'll clear all of the cells that aren't locked, I believe. So if we wanted to clear frame 1 of everything except for our user and the target, that's what we could do. You can also copy a frame. What you can do is copy frame 1 to 14 and paste them on this frame. What I like to do is, like, if we wanted to, we could copy frame 1 and paste it into frame 2. It's kind of better to just do paste last, I feel, but, you know, different preferences. And then another one that's very interesting is tweening. If you want to use motion, so for our current animation, it's kind of boring because it's only playing in one location. It's not moving across the screen. If you wanted to, like for example, on frame 6, we could just showcase some tweening. We can paste this little boy here who doesn't look very good. We can make it a little smiley face, actually. Let's do that properties. And let's make this smiley man. Yay! So this is cell 2 right here. And then what we could do is go to frame 14 and paste him here. And then go back to frame 6. And we can tween between those two positions. And then it'll update the location from like location A to location B. So we can hit tweening here. And we want to make it so that way on frame 6 it starts, and on frame 14 it ends, I believe. And it's only cell 2. You can tween multiple cells. In fact, you can tween up to 30 cells because there is a 30 cell maximum. But we only want to tween cell 2, because otherwise if we start moving everything, it'll look really dumb. And then what we want to tween between is the position. That's really the only thing that changed. The pattern doesn't change, and the opacity and blending don't change. And then we can hit OK. And now from frames 6 to 14, it should move. Actually, no, this one, sorry. This one was on frame 13, not on 14. So we need to tween between 6 and 13, not 6 and 14. Slight mistake. It's okay, though. There we go. And this will be cell 2. And then we can change this to cell 2 also. I mean, honestly, this really doesn't matter, this last cell thing, because there isn't anything higher than 2. And I'm just going to check all the boxes just because whatever. I want to make sure this works. There we go. Now we can tween. So if you wanted to make something fly from your user to their user over the course of a couple frames, you could set the start location and the end location and then just tween between them. So that way it'll have like a perfect line of motion. Anywho, let's get serious and delete our stupid smiley faces. And let's get back to finishing the surf animation. Here we have frame 5, paste last, P, here we go, that's frame 6, paste last. Gosh, paste last is just so good. Here we go. So now it's all over them. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then what we could do is kind of hold on this for a little bit, paste, paste, and then we can make it go down. So the animation could be, it starts and then starts swirling up, and then it goes like this, and then paste last, properties, then it can start to go back down. We might need to actually increase the number of frames in this animation. We might not have enough. We need more frames. I've been framed myself. Yeah, let's increase this number of frames to like 16? Let's just go 18, whatever. YOLO, am I right? So it goes whoosh, woo. Almost done though. Paste last, P, another pattern, paste last, P, and another pattern. Okay, and at the very end, just put a little smiley face there. There we go, that looks great. That looks just great. So now when we play our animation, whoosh, whoosh. Play opposing animation, whoosh. So since our focus is the target, when we play the animation, our user is using it on the target. So when the animation plays normally, it'll be like this, where it plays over them. When they use it on us, it'll play here. So this is what it looks like when an enemy uses surf on us. Although the smiley appears over there to the left, and that looks kind of crappy. You just put the smiley here or whatever. Oh, I think I understand why. So the reason that it appears to the left of our fighter is because it's to the left of their fighter and the focus is the target. So rather than flipping both vertically and horizontally for like the user and target focus, if the focus is just the target, it'll move from here to here when they use it. So play animation, play opposing animation. Cool. So as you'll notice, that is still a very quiet animation. It looks pretty good. I mean, without this smiley face. Let's get rid of that. But it doesn't sound very good. And the reason is because we haven't hooked up any sound effects. So we should go to SE and BG. And if we wanted to, we could add a background graphic for this animation. And that's why I copied over that other picture from before. I'm just going to showcase it. It doesn't look very good, but if we wanted to, we could select our file and we could set the position and all the colors and everything. And now when we play our animation, oh, sorry, I have to edit that real quick. What I did was I messed up the opacity. See, it's at opacity 0. It defaults to opacity 0. You actually need to raise that all the way up to 255, otherwise it won't show. Opacity 0 means it'll be 100% transparent. So let's select that again. Oh, never mind. I don't need to select it again. I can just left click. There we go. I was being a doof. Okay. So now when we play our animation, we can have a background graphic. It's kind of dumb, but if you wanted to do something more interesting like that, you could do that. Let's just delete that. Cool. Let's play a sound effect. There are so many different sound effects that we can use. So let's listen to this. Oh yeah, that's the user's cry. Oh no, it caused the crash. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. That was really weird that selecting user's cry caused a crash, but anyway, here I am again, and we're gonna select sound effects now, and hopefully not crash this time. I actually had to go and remake the animation, but it was really fast. Let's play a different sound. I don't want to select user's cry. That one, I will instead choose maybe water 3. How does that sound? That doesn't sound too good, actually. Let's do water 5. That sounds okay. I don't know. How about instead we add our own sounds? Really quick, let's make a backup of our animations. That way we don't have to delete it or have to remake it if our game crashes. Down here in the bottom right, you'll see that there are import anim and export anims. It's very cool. You can actually export this animation that you've made and then re-import it, and other people who are making their own games, you can share animations with them. So let's export this anim, and I'm gonna call it Surf Boys, and just hit enter. What this will do is make a surfboys.anim file inside of your game's root folder, and it's a text file so it can be transferred to others easily. And then if at any other time you lose it, you can re-import it. So check this out. I actually have made a couple other surfs. There's Surf Backup, Surf Boys, and Surf Test. So if we change what animation we're currently looking at, like 302, and then just do import anim, we can import Surf Boys to another anim and then save our changes. Actually, no, let me not do that real quick. So let's look at our list of animations once again. So right now 302 is also surf. So it loads the name and it loads all of the properties. So if we play it, it's the exact same. So you can use this importing and exporting to basically back up your animations that you're working on, as well as share animations with others, and they can import them into their game. So that's very cool. Importing and exporting anims, very great. Anyway, let's close this now, because since we've made a backup, I'm not afraid of losing any progress. And let's go to the internet. What I've got here is a great website, KH Insider. What you can do is actually download different attack sound effects. I'm gonna link this in the description, but let's say you go to P and then just Control F Pokemon, and there are many results, but you can find SFX of Gen 1, SFX of Gen 2, 3, and then I don't think there's a 4, but here we have 5. And what we can do now is Control F Surf, and then just left click on that and hit play. Oh gosh, that's not the best sound, is it? Anyway, let's use some of it. What we can do is save this as an MP3, and let's go to our computer and do data, go to my Pokemon files, and go to audio, sound effects, and then anim. This is where all of the sound effects are stored in our game for attack animations. And we'll just call this one Surf. Screw it. Cool. And since it didn't sound very great, I'm going to open up Audacity and navigate to that file. So what we need to go is back to our game and go to our audio, sound effects, anim, and we need to find Surf. It's down here somewhere. If it's a snake, it would have bit me. Here it is. So here is Surf. Now here is the file. I noticed that it sounded like a lot in the left ear and then a lot in the right ear, because it looks like it actually is. So this one plays in the left ear and this one plays in the right ear. Sounds kind of crappy. Let's just only use one of these. So what we can do is Delete-O and play. Oh, I have to select from here. I mean, it still is not great. I would ideally like to combine these all into one layer. I'm not the best person at using Audacity though, so if I wanted to just morph these into one layer or delete just this one, I'm certainly not certain as to how I would do it. We can just pan 100% right or pan 100% left. Anywho, let's just export this as a new surf MP3. Oh man, I gotta go back to my game folder again because Audacity is so smart. Audio, sound effects, anim, and let's just call this surf. Replace it. Sure, let's clear all this stuff. There we go. Now we've got our own little surf MP3 in our sound effects folder. So let's play that sound effect with our animation. And in order to do that, we gotta go back into our animation editor. So once again, we load into our game, and then we go to information editors. And then you'll notice that there's these import and export all battle animations. So these can also be used to export all of the animations massively into a bunch of anim folders or anim files. And then you can do that to import all of them massively, all of those anim files. It's pretty crazy. I'm just gonna go into the battle animation editor once again because I feel more comfortable here. Now, let's go back into our list of animations and scroll down to the bottom once again and find an empty one and then import our surf that we had. So let's go to move 299 right here, load an animation, and let's import our anim in our root folder. Let's import Surf Boys. And when I say root folder, what I mean by that is just our Pokemon Essentials folder. So there's game, and then there's Surf Backup, Surf Boys. All of our .anims are right here. Anywho, let's go back into our animation, and we can play it. Whoa, it's looking pretty good. What we need is some sound effects now. Let's go to SE, add play sound, and let's scroll on down to Surf. We downloaded it, we threw it in, and we can play it for our attack. There it is, surf.mp3. Volume 80, pitch 100. What we could do is increase it so it's a little faster or decrease it so it's a little bit slower. Let's play that. Ooh, let's up that volume a little bit. Okay, there we go. So right now it's playing on frame 1. If we wanted to edit this, we could make it so that way the sound plays on frame 7. Let's just make it play on frame 1. Now let's close this and hit play animation. I mean, it's not great, it's not perfect, but it's certainly better than the water gun animation we had earlier, isn't it? Let's export this again as Surf Boys once again to replace that one. Or did it just save another version? This is actually something that's interesting to me. Did it save another Surf Boys? Okay, no, it overwrote the existing Surf Boys. Cool. So, now we've got our animation in the game. Let's do save changes and exit from the editor. Cool. So, you actually do have to close the game and reopen it in order for the changes to be saved and to take effect. Right now, if I try to use Surf in a battle, it will still have the water gun animation because it hasn't like recompiled all of the animations yet. So really quickly, let's close it and reopen it. Now, when we hit play, if we get into a battle and use Surf, it will be our new animation. So let's do a battle, test wild battle against a Bulbasaur, and let's crank this bad boy up to level 15. I want to see it survive a Surf. All right, go Gyarados. Gyarados is going to kick his ass with this new revitalized Surf animation. Check this out. Whoa, there's our animation that we made. It's been put into the game. How crazy is that? Let's show it off again. Oh, it's a beauty. It is a beauty. Cool. So, I'm going to show off another thing that I think is criminal right now. If you use Solar Beam, since a Solar Beam animation hasn't been defined in Pokemon Essentials, instead, you're going to get the same animation twice, which is like, I think, Leaf... No, what's it? It's not Vine Whip. I'll show it off in a little bit. But anyway, check this out. There are two animations that play for Solar Beam. There's the charging one, and then the actual attacking one. And neither of those are actually defined in the list. So when I use Solar Beam, it looks like that. Goodness gracious. So, I'm not going to make a solar beam animation right now in this episode, but if I did want to make an animation for it, what I would want to do is go into our animation editor and make one called solar beam charging and then one called move:solar beam. That's pretty cool. And I guess, before I end this episode, another thing that I need to break down really quick is the opposing animation. I said I was going to break it down and I still didn't get around to it. I'm sorry if this episode feels like a jumbled mess. There is a lot of stuff that's all over the place, and there really isn't like a proper order to go through everything in. Instead, you kind of just have to do it. So, let's go to our list of animations once again, and you'll see that some of these have move and op move. The reason that they do this is because they made it so that the focus is the user and the target, and it looks not proper when they do the opposing animation because it like curves down. So instead, what you can do is have a naming convention for a move and op move, and op move will be the one that the opponent uses. I honestly feel like you don't really need to do this, because if you are smart about the way your animations work in the game, you might not need to define a move and opposing move, and could just instead make the focus the enemy, and then have it like flip properly. But you'll notice that since the focus of this was user and target, it does flip upside down when the enemy attacks. So instead, if we load the enemy's version of water gun and play it, so that's from them coming to us. It looks a little bit better. I don't know. Honestly, the water gun one looks kind of poo-poo. If we wanted to, what we would do is make our own new water gun animation where it like shoots out some water, and then around here like it turns into like water bubbles or water drops that like go down on them or something. Anyway, that's basically it for the move animation editor. Cell batch is basically applying different changes to multiple cells at the same time if you wanted to. You can move a bunch of them at the same time. You could zoom a bunch of them at the same time. You could do it across different frames and across multiple cells. And it goes up to 30, like I said before, so 0 to 29, where 29 is the last possible cell. And across all of these frames, across all of these cells, you could just make everything bigger if you wanted to. And then entire slide is just taking everything and moving everything, which is the same thing as a cell batch, but only for movement. And yeah, that's about it. I've basically covered all the buttons. The main button that I've been using is P for properties, and from there you can access all of the different fields to edit each individual cell. And then, yeah, exit from the editor, sure. Hopefully that helps you guys make your own animations and helps you get creative and thinking about what you could do to make your own stuff. So, in summary, what you need to make an animation is an animation sheet, some sound effects, and a lot of time in order to line up all the different frames. I mean, we did that kind of fast. A lot of it really helps that these were already created. If you wanted to go and get your own, then I think you might be able to find some on the Spiders resource. I could try to track those down and put those in the description as well. Anyway, my closing notes will be, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate you. I hope this episode helps you out, and I hope that my jumbled nature of explaining the move animation editor doesn't make things confusing for you. Hopefully this makes it a little bit more sense, and you can make your own surf animation, and then from there branch out to like copying rock throw to make your own solar beam even. Who knows? Anyway, I want you guys to follow me on Twitch because I do stream some more now, and follow me on Instagram because I post dumb photos sometimes of me and my friends hanging out and drinking and going places. And join the Thundaga Discord if you want to message me or message any of the other friendly fellows on there. They're mostly friendly, most of them. Anyway, thank you again so much for watching this episode. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.